Hello, good evening, and welcome, fellow children of chaos. This video is kind of a last-minute thing. Unfortunately, the other guy, not Josh, the other guy who only shows up occasionally, is on vacation this month. So he's asked me to take over for him for this. But, you know, with October coming around, I've seen a number of these videos where they talk about underrated horror movies you've never seen. You know, ooh, these are these must-see if you're a real horror movie fan. And, you know, these big lists of like, oh, underrated horror movies you've never seen. They really come into two categories. The first is, oh, underrated horror movies? What about May from 2002, Lucky McKee? I'm like, okay, yeah, everybody's seen that shit. Martyrs. Yeah, everybody's seen that shit. Did you know that The Ring was a remake of yes, we all fucking know that The Ring was a remake of a Japanese movie called Ringu. And it has like 800 fucking sequels and prequels and even a crossover with the fucking Grudge Catboy. Like, yeah, this is not common. Like, you guys are like the most basic bitches of underseen horror movies. The other ones are people who want to give you absolute fucking garbage. People who want to dump shit on you. It's like, oh, disturbing cinema. Watch something like August Underground, which, yeah, but it also just fucking sucks. Like, August Underground just fucking sucks. Or The Angel's Melancholy, which, hey, edgelord, how about we put you on a couple fucking watch lists, because, or worse, if you want to talk about a filmmaker whom I refuse to talk about on this channel, who happens to have made a series of movies involving regurgitation. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, this person just, honestly, the quicker this person ends up 6 feet underground, the happier I'll be. But yeah, it's, you know, like, oh, you should watch them. I'm like, no, you shouldn't. Don't ever watch those movies. Don't support this clown. Don't even pirate this shit, 'cause it's not worth it. It's not even very good. But, you know, and it's always the same fucking 20 fucking movies you see in every one of these lists. No one has anything interesting or new to say about, you know, if you're looking to discover horror that hasn't been seen, you're not going to get it from a lot of these YouTube lists. So I'm here to rectify that. The other guy, his letterbox, I will link in the description below. Like I said, he doesn't watch horror movies during the month of October, with a couple of exceptions here and there. But if you follow him, he will absolutely lead you to some really weird, strange, not always good, but very stuff that you probably would be shocked you've never seen. But I'm here, and I'm going to give you guys 30, this is October, 31 days in October, and I know we're already 10 days in, but I figure, you know, you guys could skip some or double up on a couple days or use this list for next year. But yeah, so I'm going to give you guys 31 actually underseen horror movies that and I'm not saying all of these are ones you've never heard of, because absolutely you might have heard of a couple of these, especially if you really are into, like, deep into horror, like I am, like, Horror Sages, so, like, obviously this list isn't a universe, but I feel like this list I've created, that we've created, is actually a pretty solid one to get you guys into some stuff that you haven't seen before. But anyway, let's get started. So this will be 31 very short reviews of 31 horror movies. And if you guys know me, I love RNGs, so they're in no particular order. They've literally just been randomly shuffled. So we're going to start with a 2006 movie called The Traveler. Hyper low budget. Like, we're talking about a budget of like $30, and yet and the acting is bad, but for the budget they have, this effects are actually really good. There's a scene where the titular traveler... Well, the idea is that the traveler has a group of, I think, like 7 or 8 people in this kind of abandoned house. And every hour he comes in and they have to vote on one to be tortured and killed. And when they vote one out, he tortures and kills them and leaves again. But there's one where the traveler takes a guy, pins him down, and he has a hammer. And he's hitting this dude in the face with a hammer. And every time he hits a dude, he bam! And there's like a mark where he hit. And to pull the curtain behind, so if you don't want to hear this, skip about 30 seconds ahead. But obviously what has happened is he has a hammer, like a rubber hammer probably, and has put red paint on it, so when he taps the dude, the red paint marks him. But for no budget, that looked really fucking good. Also, I think the end, and if you get a chance to watch it, try to watch it with the full ending, because the full ending, it's a little hackneyed, but I think it does kind of wrap a lot of things up. So yeah, watch the full ending. But I think the ending has a lot of weight to it. I think there's a lot to kind of take in from the ending. But yeah, yeah, I'll probably put the list of movies in the comments or in the description as well. Next up is a lot of these are going to be from the 2000s and 2010s because that's honestly kind of a lot of where our wheelhouse is. That was just a lot of very weird underground cinema being made then. But anyway, this one isn't. From 1973 is a movie called Baba Yaga. It's an erotic thriller, and honestly, there's some scenes that just really, if that's what you're after, that particular style, a couple of scenes toward the end really work. It's got this very giallo kind of wash, and I'm not somebody who's super into giallo, but it does a great job blending that kind of vibrancy. The one advantage that giallo really does is how vibrant it is. A vibrancy, erotica, and honestly just kind of like a vibe to it. Yeah, so from next up, number 3, from 2010, a movie called Bioslime. It is really weird. Basically, a group of people in an apartment are being kind of pinned in by a slime that's like possessing them. It's just honestly just kind of a really silly, fun, one of those movies that is a joy to watch because clearly it was a movie where everybody involved just kind of was having a lot of fun, and that fun does absolutely transfer to you, the viewer. Bioslime is one of those movies that you could do a watch party with some friends to kind of, you know, laugh at, make fun of, all that stuff. Number 4 on the list, The Free Fall from 2021. This was a shocking one to me when I first watched it. One of my mutuals suggested it to me. Well, they didn't suggest it. They had mentioned it in passing, and I just kind of took it on as a suggestion. And it's a story of a woman in a house. And the kind of master of the house is just a really odd individual. And it's one of those movies that I kind of called the twist ending kind of early on, just because I've seen so many of them. But it very slowly and atmospherically kind of just unfolds. And the end, there's like kind of a twist and then another little twist at the end. The little twist at the end is actually really good. The two leads, the female protagonist and the male antagonist do such a good job, and they have a lot of really good chemistry. Yeah, it's what I got to say there. Number 5 is from 2009, a movie called Sweatshop. This might be the slasherest slasher that's ever slashed. A bunch of attractive goths are kind of getting ready for a rave, and there's this giant with a sledgehammer who kills them. And it has one of my favorite kills of a slasher film of all time, and I won't give too many details away, but it involves said hammer and a chain link fence, and it's just so good. Let's go number 6, The Man in the Orange Jacket. I don't remember what country this is from, but this is one of the ones we discovered while we were kind of trying to watch a lot of kind of underseen cinema from various countries in the world. Like, you know, you see a lot of movies, America, Canada, Japan, England, France, Italy, but there's a lot of, and I cannot for life remember what country this is, but so we were kind of trying to see with that, and it's a story of a guy who kills his boss and kind of takes over his life. Not really takes over his life, but kind of lives on his dead boss's land for a while. And it is a slow burner, but we very much see just how little by little, the movie just reveals to us how cracked his psyche actually is. And yeah, just like, we just kind of just slowly see like the guy's head unfolding into like the mess that it naturally is. Number 7, we will do Chompy and the Ghouls. I discovered a clip of this. If you can find the scene where there's this kind of little girl, this girl and her estranged father, biological father, kind of meet up. She needs money, and he almost kind of like hid her from his current wife. And so they meet up, and while they're kind of like having a conversation, they see this like probably like 12-year-old girl, and this dude walks up and his mouth just kind of and swallows her whole. And then upon noticing that they saw him, you know, they flee and he chases them, and they keep seeing the girl that was eaten like haunting them. It's a comedy in the way that, not in the way that it's presented, but it's very much one of those movies where the absolute absurdity of the situation, more than there being obvious jokes, and there are a handful of obvious jokes in the movie, but it is a lot more absurd than it is comedic. But kind of in the same vein, number 8, Undead from 2003. This is a Kiwi film. This woman's kind of returning to her hometown, and suddenly there's like a riot, breakout, the zombies appear, and a pregnant woman, a pair of bumbling cops are saved by this farmer who has like a weapon. If you look at the poster, there's a woman in a gas mask with a shotgun with 3 barrels. The woman in the gas mask doesn't really happen until the end of the movie, so the poster isn't exactly a lie. But the 3-barreled shotgun is, for quite some time, a prominent part of the... Not even a 3-barreled shotgun, it's literally just 3 shotguns taped together. And that kind of over-the-top absurdity is absolutely the joy of this movie. It moves full force, and there's a mid-movie reveal that I didn't see coming, but is so fun. But yeah, like, it's honestly, like I said, it's much like Chompy and the Ghouls. It leans more toward the comedic elements, but it absolutely attempts. The comedy of it just comes from how willing the movie is to just kind of, I don't want to say that because I might make it sound like an extreme horror movie. It just doesn't care about logic, and just like, there's a scene where he's fighting a zombie, he spills some soap on the floor, so he sits down, shoots his gun, the gun barrel kick pushes him back against the wall, where he picks up a can of like an energy drink, shakes it up, and throws it in the zombie's mouth. And when he shoots out of the mouth, the pressure from the can being shaken up explodes and blows the zombie's head off. So it's a lot of fun. So, number 9, we will do from 2018, a movie called Run for Your Life. Super short. The movie's only like 73 minutes. It is like some of these, the budget on it is 0. Like there's no budget. And it's a story of a high school loser, his girlfriend, and his best friend. And he's haunted in this dream by this monster. If you look at the poster, there's like a monster. It's not the most prevalent, but it is a very important part of the movie. And a lot of it really is just kind of a study on these characters' shitty lives and how it affects them. And it's part of the end of the movie, so I don't want to give anything away. But there's a scene with the girlfriend, and it is legitimately one of the saddest things I have seen in a movie. Run for Your Life is probably one of those horror movies that's a little more depressing than it is like scary. But if you're looking for something low budget and that kind of depressive element of horror, give it a shot. I do know Run for Your Life is on Tubi TV, because that's where I've watched it like 4 times. But since we're on the topic of low budget, let's go to a low budget movie that isn't depressing and in fact is quite hilarious. Number 10, there's a movie called Fetish Dolls Die Laughing from 2012. Basically, this guy has a website where he tickles women to death, and that's honestly such a small part of the movie, but that's where the movie's title comes from. But there's a scene in an office where I cannot remember. I have to watch this movie again because I cannot remember exactly how the conversation goes. But this dude is in an ER waiting room, and it's clearly just his living room. And the doctor's just standing there in a t-shirt and jeans, kind of smoking, being like, oh, yeah, you know, that. And it's one of those, it is absolutely one of those watch with your friend type movies, because it's so often you hear movies like The Room as talked about as like this pinnacle of bad filmmaking and how hilarious this bad. The Room has nothing. The Room is fucking Citizen Kane when you compare it to Fetish Dolls Die Laughing. So we'll go to number 11, which is 2006, Left in Darkness. I think this one's on Tubi. I have it on disc, but it kind of falls into like that mid-2000s kind of soft supernatural movie. Basically, this woman is drugged at a frat party, and the movie is heavily her kind of in the space between life and death. People are gonna shell me for saying this, but there are certain elements of Dante's Inferno in here, because it's kind of, there's very much like this element of her being guided through, like, she's still like, she almost is like a phantom, but there's like, and there's this element where if she leaves the light, then whatever is in the darkness will claim her soul. And so we have a guide who's kind of trying to keep her in the light and take her to the afterlife, but she's also trying to use what little she has to kind of help guide one of her friends from dying, to prevent her from being, you know, killed, whatever. It's got this kind of softness to it, and it's where the 1970s gallows are very bright and vibrant. I kind of miss the mid-2000s horror movies that have this very soft and muted tone to it, almost hazy, almost... Man, I should have put... I might do another one of these because talking about it, I've thought of a couple that I didn't put on my list that I should have. But anyway, but I kind of miss the soft haziness of it all. There's like the ones that, especially ones that are supernatural, have this softness to them. I almost kind of miss. All right, number 12, we'll do Werewolf of Carle Plays, 2013. You can find this on YouTube. It is available for free on YouTube. It's very talky, and it's not a particularly good movie. The acting is very wooden, and it's almost worth watching just for the mom character, because it's very clear that she is just the actual, like, main character director guy's mom, who he talked into, like, being his mom for the movie, and she has no acting ability, and honestly, you can tell she's there not because she has any kind of love for filmmaking. She's just there because she wants to support her son's dream, and it's kind of nice. But I love it. You're not gonna find I don't know if any. Oh yeah, there is a couple, but you're not gonna find like much found footage. I don't like found footage. I've never liked found footage. It's always felt like a gimmick. And I've heard this argument that found footage is like the everyman genre, that found footage is the kind of film that anyone could pick up and make. And I don't like that because you get a movie like Werewolf of Carle Place, and it is not found footage, but clearly it was made for 25 cents and a rented camera, like, and a dream. Like, it is so much about what a guy can just pick up a camera and do. Is it good? No. But it is absolutely proof that if you want to make a horror movie, you can do it. It's hard work. It's never easy to do something like that, but it is just so encompassing of what the DIY spirit of horror movies are. Like, horror has always kind of been an accessible genre of filmmaking. You take something like fantasy, sci-fi, to a lesser extent character drama, but it's one of those ones that hit wildly. But a lot of these genres require big budgets, and you can't get those big budgets without... And there are horror movies that require big budgets, like a post-apocalyptic horror movie, like something like... Man, I don't know, because Night of the Living Dead exists, so... But there is just very much this DIY spirit, and it's one of the things I love about horror, and it is so exemplified in The Werewolf of Carle Place. Next up, we'll go 2002, and it's one of my favorite films, and it's probably one of the biggest red flags you'll find about me, and it's a film called Lucky. Steve Coogan, and it's the story of a man who, and it is a comedy, but I'm gonna put it right here, right now. Trigger warning, all of them. The movie has absolutely no reverence toward anything. There's a lot of very, very jokes there's a lot of jokes in it that I could see offending some people, most people, but there's a playfulness to it that's almost disarming. But anyway, this guy finds he's a scriptwriter for cartoons, and he runs over a dog. He's a failure, a loser. Literally his entire house is just covered top to bottom in half-full beer cans, and he accidentally runs over a dog, nurses it to health, and the dog is psychic, and it teaches him to write better scripts, but at a cost. And the cost is that the dog eats women. But like I said, I would absolutely, before watching it, if anything hits you, do some research into it because, like I said, it has pretty much all the trigger warnings you can find in a movie. But it's never really mean-spirited when it comes to it. It's very playful, and a lot of the nastiness is on our main character more than it is on women or intersex people or things like that. So, yeah, but like I said, I like it. But it comes with a huge disclaimer about trigger warnings. So now let's move on to number 14, a movie called Black Hollow Cage from 2017. The story is this girl, she lives kind of in this isolated cabin with her father who builds her a robotic arm. And there's some other kids there who have like, it's not like a sci-fi horror, but she ends up finding, I think this is the titular Black Hollow Cage, like a black cube in the woods that grant her time travel abilities. And I really can't say a whole lot more without really spoiling anything because, like I said, another movie, a slow burner. It's kind of funny because like my tastes range from like hyper fast, ultra violent slashers to slow burn psychological thrillers, and I'm not really kind of in this in between zone. I either want my movies to move at a snail's pace or move like a move at light speed and nowhere in between. But Black Hollow Cage is a slow burner, and it very much is one of those films that I've actually seen a lot of people talk about it and not quite get the ending. So you might have to watch it more than once to kind of gronk it. I think I got it, and I'm not saying like as me being smarter than anybody. I think elements of it clicked with me easier than it seems to have with other fans. Although I am smarter than most of you, just for different reasons. Number 15 is a movie and like I said, the other side, a movie called Here for Blood. This guy, sadly, he's not a real professional wrestler, but you wouldn't know it from his build. But, this guy, he's a professional wrestler, and his girlfriend takes a babysitting job, but she is going to be running late, so she asks him to watch the kid for her, and so he goes to this house in the middle of nowhere, and kind of is babysitting this little girl, and a cult attacks and tries to get the little girl, and so, you know, our big buff man, it's kind of funny because it's almost an inversion of the slasher trope, where the hero is this big, tough, invincible badass, and there's people around who are desperately trying to get at the target, but instead of it being like an invincible villain slaughtering through helpless teenagers, it's an invincible protagonist and eventually his girlfriend trying to slaughter through a group of cultists that are trying to go in. And it's not I like the kind of siege movies like Night of the Living Dead and Assault on Precinct 13, but it's not that, because they just get into the house, he just kicks their ass every time they go in. And it is a comedy. It's funny, but it's just a lot of fun. Next up, this one is just straight up a comedy. 2015, it's a movie called Patchwork. These three girls end up waking up, and somebody has Frankenstein their body together, so basically these three women wake up, and they're all kind of sharing a body. There's a lot of scenes that kind of show the headspace that they're in, where it's the actual three actresses kind of interacting and talking in a space. And then we'll often see like how their interactions do straight up translate to I call it the amalgam, how she's interacting with the world compared to how they're interacting in this kind of neutral space. And the lady who's playing the amalgam is really good because she will, within a conversation, speak in 3 different tones, 3 different cadences, and just switch like that. But yeah, it's just a funny movie. And also there's an owl cat, so that's kind of cool. Next up, so forever and ever I called Night of the Living Dead my favorite movie of all time. And it is the movie that made me fall in love with horror. There isn't a movie out there that is more pivotal in my horror journey than Night of the Living Dead. However, I don't think that's my favorite horror movie, and I do think it's this one from 2003. It is a Spanish thriller called Killing Words. It's one of those movies I can't spend a lot of time talking about because so much of the movie is based on like the interaction and the reveals, and it is one of those movies where there's constantly new small reveals. Reveal. Much like The Man in the Orange Jacket, it's one of those movies that kind of slowly unfolds, except where The Man in the Orange Jacket unfolds into a man's kind of broken psyche. This one kind of unfolds into like the man, and so a guy kidnaps his ex-wife and forces her to play word chains with him. And so the idea is that if he wins, he'll let her go. If she wins, he'll pop her eyeball out with a spoon. It sounds kind of silly, but the lead makes it work. And we intercut with a usual suspects type investigation with 2 police kind of interrogating him. But yeah, so the movie very much through their interaction and their gameplay, like while they're speaking, while they're playing, there's a lot kind of unfolding about the 2, and it's just, I don't know, I love this movie so much. It is probably my favorite movie of all time. It's one of those movies that's actually really hard to find, but if you can find it somewhere, even if you got a, yo-ho-ho, do it, please. It's so good. But it's not a passive movie because of the characters, the actual word chains they play, center heavily into the plot. You really do have to kind of watch it. Number 18, from 2017, a movie called The Laplaces Demon. For those of you who don't know, The Laplaces Demon is a philosophical concept that states that there's no such thing as free will. Everything is a equation we haven't figured out yet. There is no chaos. Everything that happened now happened because a series of events happened that led to this point. And thus, if you could somehow zoom back and see every single event across all of time and space, you could see a pattern that would let you accurately predict the future, because every single thing that happened and is happening is playing on each other in ways that are predictable but too big for us to understand. So the Laplaces Demon is, this mathematician thinks he has figured out the Laplaces Demon. And so this guy basically brings 5 people onto a boat and kind of tells them, hey, I figured it out. And I already know what all you're going to do, every step you're going to take, everything that's going to happen. And so the movie is these 5 people kind of on a boat trying to figure things out. Well, every so often, a coffin comes and takes one of them away. And every time they think they've got it figured out, it turns out no. Whoops. It turns out they had, the mathematician in charge just kind of prepared for it all. It's in black and white. I think it's really good. It's very, high-minded from somebody who just praised movies like Lucky and Sweatshop. This movie is very high-minded. It's very intellectual. It's very, very smart, very philosophical, and it's just a very interesting movie. So we'll go down one to number 19 from the year 2013, a movie called Pretty Dead. Pretty Dead is on here because, as I've stated, I am pretty much the world's biggest hater of found footage. I think found footage is wholly a bad genre. I cannot think of a single movie I have seen where controversial, I think mockumentaries and screen time movies don't count as found footage. I think that those are separate subgenres because there's not really found footage within that. It's just one is through a computer screen and one is a fake documentary. I don't consider Cannibal Holocaust I don't know, it kind of is. Whatever. Obviously, arguments being made here, but yeah, no, I can almost very, very few movies I can think of I watched, and there was a found footage, and even if I enjoyed it, like I like Quarantine, I was like, man, this movie was good. It would have been better if it was filmed like a real movie. So, however, Pretty Dead on here is a movie that I actually liked. I still think it would have been better had it not been found footage. But I want to put a found footage movie on here because I do think that there are actual good found footage movies out there. Like I said, I like Quarantine, Wreck, those two movies. I know people think the American version of Quarantine isn't as good, and it's probably not, but I still thought it was a pretty decent movie. But Pretty Dead is a movie about a woman who was bitten by a zombie, and it's very much her documenting her slow transformation into zombiedom. And I've seen it done other ways. There's a movie called Zombie Honeymoon that I think does it better. But Pretty Dead is really solid, and I think does a good job of kind of showcasing like the horror of the slow transformation of like becoming a zombie, but I think it could also be looked at things like slow transformation from things like untreated mental illness or substance abuse, things like that. Because it's like a lot more about her fighting like these impulsive thoughts and urges more than it is about like things eating each other's faces. But yeah, so like as far as found footage goes, Pretty Dead is probably one of the better ones out there. So at number 20, we're getting close. 2007, movie called Spiral. No, not that Spiral. No, not that Spiral, not that Spiral. The movie, 2007, it's a story about, it's one of my favorite subgenres of horror, and there's a number of them. May is the preeminent one in this subgenre of what I call the loner thriller, which are horror movies centered around kind of a social outcast and like the horrors of like them trying to fit in and where they don't fit in and the way they kind of basically it's like it's a thriller themed around like the life of a loner, and they don't have to be people who have no friends, no social connections, because both May has friends, and Spiral, the main character whose name I cannot remember, has a best friend who is a douchebag. He is a piece of shit, but he's not evil. He's well-meaning. He's just also kind of selfish and kind of a toxic, kind of very toxically masculine. But this guy meets a girl, and he sketches her, and he's trying very, very hard to, like, form this bond with her, and also still be social. And huge portions of the movie center around him being a sketch artist. He's the sketches, penciling, and he like draws pictures of her. And so Spiral refers to the Spiral notebook, but also refers to his mental spiral because his friends don't see him with this girl. And so like they think he's just like he's an imaginary friend of his, like he made her up. It's really, really good. Number 21 from 2006. I believe Korean. I don't remember if it's Korean or Taiwanese. I think it's Korean. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie, but it is a movie called Bloody Reunion, 2006. A group of people come together for a reunion and are slowly being killed. And where Sweatshop is kind of a fun slasher. It's kind of a wild, crazy, kind of over-the-top slasher. Bloody Reunion is one of those slashers that's kind of grimmer and heavily influenced from Saw. So like the violence in it is very real and intense, and has scene. One kill in it is one that is legitimately like kind of hard to watch for me, where she puts razor blades in this dude's mouth and then fills it with boiling water. So he's kind of got these razor blades half down his throat, but he's also trying to gurgle out this boiling water. And it's a pretty brutal kill. Number 22 is a movie called Inside Scarlett. The only way I was able to find this was from a kind of poor quality audio rip. So if anybody would know where you can find a better quality of it, I'd like to watch it again with a little better audio quality. But it's really hard to impress on you how depressing and kind of overwhelmingly sad a movie about a woman having a sexual affair with a stuffed bunny is. Because the idea is that the main character Scarlett is having a sexual affair with a stuffed rabbit. It talks to her and stuff, kind of Greg the Bunny-ish. But it is honestly kind of a sad movie. It is really, really kind of fucking depressing. So let's move on to number 23, Invisible Enemies. So this one comes with another warning. This movie is a Christian horror movie, and it is absolutely hindered by its preaching at the audience. But at its heart, I actually think it's kind of a solid little take on They Live. Because this guy finds a pair of glasses, and as he wears the glasses, he can see the demonic influences that impress on people to have them do evil things. Hey, let's not knock over my camera setting, okay, kitten? Darn, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, so like, and of course, you know, you can take the argument that it's demonic forces that make people do bad things. And this is an absolutely silly line where this guy's trying to explain to his friend about temptation. He goes, well, I know about the porn. And it's very silly and kind of goofy. And some of the demonic effects are cool, and some of them really suck. But I think that the Christian mythos has a lot of good places you could kind of take a horror movie, but I think too many of them are a little scared to actually go to those places because they're... I've heard it said before that modern Christians aren't followers of Christ, they're followers of Christianity. So it's not about following the stories and lessons in the Bible as much as it is about following like the modern... Ow, jelly. As it is about following like the modern ways that they're being, you know what I mean? But But I think that Invisible Enemies isn't a fantastic movie. But I do think it's an interesting place to look for someone who wants to try to take on Christian horror without it just being a parody of Christianity or anti-Christianity. I know that horror generally, because there's so much of horror in the early days, like in the 1900s, was very anti-paganism, anti-witchcraft, anti-Satanism, that there's kind of that pushback now because, like, horror is so anti-establishment. Like, as I mentioned it earlier about how horror is the DIY, everyman, boots on the ground genre of filmmaking. So, like, there's a certain punk element to a lot of horror, but I think that you can tell a good horror story with the Christian mythos without it being something silly like in American Guinea Pig Song of Solomon, which is actually kind of a good movie. I kind of like Song of Solomon, but the Christianity elements in it are very anti-Christian. But I think you could tell a story without that. And on a real quick side note, it is kind of funny that this movie, The Carpenter's Son, this horror movie, Nicolas Cage, how many people are like throwing this big fucking fit about it, which first of all, it's just a fucking movie, grow the fuck up. Secondly, you know, y'all act like that paganism, witchcraft, you know, the Norse gods, the Egyptian gods, you know, all these other cultures, y'all act like they haven't been demonized in horror before, because they all have. And also, this, like, it's not even, like, the most, like, as far as horror movies go, it's not even, like, the most anti-Christian thing I've seen. Like, I've seen a lot of horror movies that are just way, way more takes on Christianity than this. So, ultimately, grow the fuck up, stop crying about it, and if you're a horror fan, you shut up anyway. Just like, if you're a horror fan, you've seen worse, you've interacted with worse. You're a lot of people complaining about The Carpenter's Son. I'm probably not even horror fans anyway. They're just crybabies, you know. And as somebody who has been a horror movie fan for quite some time, and most of you know, pearl clutching is nothing new to our genre of filmmaking anyway, so whatever. I don't even know why I went on that rant, but yeah. Number 24 is a film called Dangerous Lies Volume 2 from 2017. This movie is a religious experience. It is... I don't know how to describe it. First of all, the man who made it, whose name I cannot even begin to pronounce, he made 3 feature-length movies. Evil Sherry and Start Again, and I don't remember the middle movie is. But he made 3 feature-length movies, cut them into 30-minute segments, and made an anthology of it. And it's so wonderful because, like, it's clear nobody in this English is their first language, but it was clearly written in... It might have been written in, I think, Italian. And then Google translated, and they were just reading it verbatim. But it's clear that most of the people who are acting don't even know what they're reading. Like, they might have an idea of, but, like, it's clear that certain words and context of words just are not understood by the actors, because their inflections are so far off. And the whole thing has, like, this fuzzy filter. The whole movie is washed out. The white balance is non-existent. Where I've talked about how horror movie is kind of the everyman's genre. This movie is perfect example of that, because it's clear you can make a horror movie without understanding even how to work a fucking camera. The movie is amazing. It's so bad. It is so bad, but there comes a point watching it where the badness stops annoying you and you almost reach this like mental transcendence where it's like you're no longer watching a movie, you're experiencing staring into the eyes of a great old one itself. Like madness suddenly becomes sane, and the sanity of the world, you realize how mad everything is. This movie is the fucking Necronomicon. Like, I swear to God, like, the movie, watching it will rewrite your brain pattern. It is madness itself to the point of sanity. I can't tell you the plot because I don't fucking know what any of it's about. The third segment, because I've seen the full movie, the third segment is about Start Again, where famous horror writer Leon Kennedy and his friends Ada Wong and Jill Valentine. I don't know why they're named after Resident Evil characters. There's no reason for it other than he likes Resident Evil and thought naming characters Leon and Ada and Jill would be cool. Claire Redfield, that's another one of the characters, but they end up in a diner, but the diner is sealed so they can't escape. And they go through a time loop. But it's amazing because he doesn't reuse footage. They'll have the same conversation, but the delivery and the lines will be ever so slightly different. So it's clear that he made them just refilm the same scene over. It's madness. I can't even. Let's move on to number 25, a movie from 2004 called So Mort It Be. Straight up horror comedy, and actually a really funny horror comedy. These two bumbling idiots throw a party because they want to hook up with some goth girls. Like, that's the plot. But when they go into the house to throw this goth party, it turns out the house is haunted with like monsters and spirit, like a bunch of different things. And these two guys are Beavis and Butthead, basically. Imagine if Beavis and Butthead were somehow even more incompetent and trying to throw a party to score some goth chicks. Like, I swear that this is a horror movie based on Beavis and Butthead. And there's a scene in the movie, and I actually really like it, because they're running out of a building, and a guy's trying to shoot them with a rifle. And you watch movies, you'll often see a bam, bam. But this guy, bam, and he misses them, and they're running, and you see him adjust his aim, and it's a weird, subtle thing that you don't notice in movies when people are taking multiple shots at a moving target. They'll often just kind of pop, 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 pop. But he, like, adjusts his aim and tries real hard to, like, shift and move to where he thinks they're gonna be. I don't know, it's kind of a cool detail, and I know it's very small in the grand scheme of filmmaking, but it was kind of a cool attention to detail. Number 26 from 2017, a movie called Lady of the Damned Forest. This movie is not good, but it's a fascinating watch because it's very clear, obviously, probably not exactly, but the spirit of it is a 15-year-old who just discovered writing and women, writes himself as like this kind of bullshit Mary Sue trying to save his girlfriend, which is clearly a popular girl that he could never get with, but had. The movie just very much comes off like a 15-year-old's power fantasy. There's really not much to say about the movie outside of that. It's kind of fun to watch because the main character is a Mary Sue, and if you kind of just relax and ride with it, it's kind of a fun little ride. Number 27 is a movie from 2002 called Phobic. This kid watched his sister get murdered, and he's agoraphobic. And the movie is the man who killed his sister is broke into his house. So now he's trying to, and this is 2002, so you know cell phones weren't super common. So he's trying to get a hold of somebody, get the killer cut the phone line, but he's trying to get a hold of somebody, or you know get away from the killer, but he can't go outside because of his agoraphobia. The ending's a little hackneyed, and it does suffer from it probably being about 10-15 minutes longer than it needs to. But honestly, I really like the movie, and no one else does, and you probably won't, but I don't give a fuck. This is my list, and I think that this movie is absolutely worth watching. From 1991, Soul of the Demon. A group of people. This one's it's one I watched quite some time ago, so some of my memory might be a little off. But basically, group of people in a house, and a demon appears, and the movie is very hot. It's kind of one of those movies that's kind of high energy, kind of high impact, and I don't want to call it a slasher because it's not exactly a slasher, but it's basically a slasher, and it's a 1991 slasher, and it comes with a lot of like that pre-Scream slasher vibe. It's no longer in the 80s kind of where slashers had stopped being taken seriously and had become a parody of themselves in the kind of like you know, Slumber Party Massacre vein. But we're also not at Scream, where it's super self-aware, and it very much kind of threw itself back. And some of the effects on it just look really good. Like it just, for 1991, it's just a good-looking movie, and yeah, that's it. Number 29 on the list from 2001, Plaga Zombie, Zona Mutante, Zombie Plague, Mutant Zone. If I'm not mistaken, I believe you can find all 4 Plaga Zombie movies on YouTube. I have a DVD with the first 2. The first one isn't bad. The first one is bad. The first one's not great. Watch them together if you can, honestly. I love the second one. The first one takes itself a little too seriously, and it's very clear that the filmmakers haven't quite honed their craft yet. But from Plaga Zombie to Mutant Zone, the level of improvement is light years. You wouldn't even know it was the same crew. But basically, 3 characters, a computer programmer, a professional wrestler, and a mathematician are being attacked by a plague of zombies who are created by aliens. And the movie is just very much them trying to get out of this mutant zone that's kind of a quarantine zone. While also trying to not die. Max, I think. The wrestler's John West. But the one guy, no, Bill, ends up using a hedge trimmer as a weapon, but the hedge trimmer doesn't work, so it just snaps the blade off and uses it like a sword through most of the movie. Pulls out a zombie's intestines and kind of wraps himself, uses it as a rope for most of the movie. John West is a wrestler. His fists are made of steel and his legs are made of titanium. Kind of just pummels them. And then Max is just kind of a loser, and he's almost like a liability. But the 3 characters, it is a comedy, and the 3 characters are so fun because the 3 actors have so much chemistry with each other that it's just a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun to experience this situation with these 3 characters. Almost done. We're at the comedy zone right now. Number 30 is Flesh-Eating Ghouls from Outer Space from 2004. This is my pitch for this. It is a musical about an alien invasion done entirely with Muppets. If you don't think that's awesome, then we can't be friends. And lastly, number 31 is another one of my absolute favorite movies. And once again, you know, people want to talk about The Room as, you know, awfully bad. 2019's Possession Diaries. Once again, let me sell it to you. This woman is possessed, and she has an exorcism, and the exorcism works. And then she gets a call on her landline, and the person who calls her from her landline is Satan. And she's like, but I had an exorcism. And he tells her he faked the exorcism just to fuck with her. That's the level of writing. And the best part is, the movie takes that dead serious. It's not played for laughs. It's not done with a wink or the tongue in cheek. That scene where Satan calls a 19-year-old girl on her landline to tell her he faked being exorcised just to fuck with her is played dead straight. So good. But anyway, we're a little over an hour into this, and so there we go, 31. If you guys want more, I could do 31 short films to watch for October. If you want, I could always do more, because I love this stuff, and there's so many more on here that I think of that that aren't on this list of horror films that you probably have not seen. So if you guys want me to do another one, like maybe another 10, another 15, so the video isn't an hour and 5 minutes long, I will absolutely do that. But anyway, have fun, stay watching, and if you've seen any movies that you don't think anybody else has seen, that you wouldn't believe, no one would believe you if you told you they existed, by all means, send them my way. I love that shit. That is what I live for. That is my joy, is watching this stuff that only 7 people have seen. I might do a video on why I watch underseen, low-budget movies, because I think it's important to talk about. But anyway, I will see you guys next time. Bye.